You know, it's interesting because I've looked at this a lot over the years. It's like almost as if tremendous creativity can come out of what appears to be unconscious situations, is where people are maybe living on the edge somehow.
Yes.
And something special comes through. And obviously that's many people that are very successful creatively do not come from stable backgrounds.
Yes. And also those will be the ones who actually can become enlightened. They will be the ones because they've had very strong pain in their lives.
And they're searching, they're looking,
Yeah.
they're open to something else coming, which is,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
Good. That's good. Thank you.
So I remember you when you were in Doctor Who. So in 1963, was it 63 that you...
63 it started, 66 I came in.
66. And it's interesting
Yes.
because I was thinking back when we talked on the phone recently. I remember watching on television, I was a teenager, the first Doctor Who episode. There'd been this great build-up on the BBC. I think we had a black and white set at the time. And sitting down there most excitedly, probably around 6 o'clock on, I think, a Saturday afternoon, to watch this Doctor Who, this science fiction programme. And I don't remember much of what happened, but I remember at the end of that episode that Doctor Who, or the person that became Doctor Who, walks into a police box. We used to have, young kids wouldn't know this, we used to have these police boxes, didn't we, in cities where I guess inside there was a phone or something. I don't know what was in there. I never went in a police box. And he walked in this phone box, and when he got in there, there was this whole new world opened up. It was like a massive room. And it really did blow my mind.
You loved that.
I did. It kind of stretched my mind. Like, here was something, you walk in a box a certain size, and actually there's almost infinite space.
Vast.
So the creators of Doctor Who must have really had in their minds to help open the minds of kids at the time. Was that the case, do you think?
Tummy rumbled. I wonder if that would get picked up. Do you know, I don't know. I don't know. I know that the writers were scientists. So presumably they knew the effect that they were going to have on children. What they couldn't possibly have predicted would have been that the series went on for so long that it did literally open the minds of a whole massive amount of children in England. What an extraordinary effect that has had. You know, Iain, because now, I mean, that was in 1963, and here we are in this day and age, and the big director, producer, actor, David Tennant and Russell T Davies, were Doctor Who fans, children of that time. And they decided they loved this programme so much that they would grow up and become writers and actors and get in it and do it. Isn't that an amazing thing?
Yeah,
that's an amazing thing.
There was a lot of imagination at the time that was new somehow.
Time and relative dimensions in space, which is what stands TARDIS.
Yes.
You see, yes, absolutely. They were visionaries. They were visionaries.
Yeah. And it's funny, in your book, you talk about that when there was an audition for Doctor Who. No, that wasn't an audition, it was the press conference for Doctor Who, when you were announced. You actually had to use your own clothes because there wasn't a wardrobe at the BBC that you could use. So you realise that these programmes were made on a comparative shoestring, really.
Yes. Absolute shoestring. And of course, you know, there was always the business about the wobbly sets. Because that later on, detractors would like to say, oh, you know, it was hopeless and that, you know, it was cheaply done and the sets wobbled. Actually, there was, in fact, if you go back, and one of the Doctor Who fans went back and watched the whole lot, all in one go, and saw that it was actually about 3 seconds where a set wobbled. But that's the bit that the press used to like to put it down and say, yes.
But I quite like that, the fact it wasn't perfect somehow.
We did it live.
Yeah.
We did it live. So in terms of, in terms of becoming a conscious person, as an actor, it's wonderful because you do have to have an expanded, you know, if the sets are going to wobble, if the camera is in the wrong place, you know, if to hit your mark, you had to have an expanded awareness. So it was very good training, actually, for later on, for waking up later on, having this acting training. Yeah.
Were you nervous in those
Oh,
situations?
terrified, absolutely terrified. Pain used to go through my hands. We'd stand, we listen. It does it to me now when I hear the music. Da-diddle-dum, da-diddle-dum, da-diddle-dum. The pain would come in my hand, and I'd stand in the wings there thinking, I don't know why I do this for a living, because it frightens me to bits, you know. And then the amazing thing is you'd step out, and then you were in your power, and then it was like, yeah, on you go. And, and if there was going to be an earthquake, you'd say, well, prop the sets up because I've got to do my thing here, you know. It was an amazing feeling of tremendous personal power.
So you go through this nervousness to start with, and how does it actually affect you? Is it once it starts, it's gone?
Adrenaline. No,
it's adrenaline, basically.
It's adrenaline. And then, as I say, it's like power, and it lasts you exactly the amount of time. I think that's why all actors have to go off to the pub afterwards, because you're on such a high.
You wind down afterwards.
You can't come down. You can't just go home and. Well, I did. I'd go home and put the kids to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you lasted on Doctor Who for, was it 1.5 years you were there roughly?
It was a season, basically. I did a season.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's the reason you left?
And actually, there was a sort of change around. They were going to move my companion, pal, Michael Craze, who played Ben. They were going to move him on, and they were having Fraser Hines was coming in, and I suddenly thought, I think it's a good time for me to go too, because I didn't want to get typecast, and I had, the thing is, there's actors, if you've got work, it's like a great big tit, and I thought, if I don't get off it now, I'll probably still be in it 25 years later if the programme is going. So it's a good time for me to just change now and do something else. But I kept doing that, I kept doing that. As soon as things were cushy and cosy and
that's
smooth.
good, though, because that means you're pushing yourself, aren't you? And you're
okay, do
trying to
something
find
else.
new horizons. No, I always admire that quality in people.
Yeah.
And so I guess when you left, you had no idea it would actually be going, 40 years later, whatever it is.
That I'd still be working on it, as it were. Yeah.
Well, we'll come back to that later, what you're doing with Doctor Who now.
Yeah.
So anyway, you moved on from that, and that pretty much gets near to the end of the self-portrait book, Doctor Who's towards the end of that.
Can I just tell you something in there, which is that because the gods have been amazingly generous to me and given me all these extraordinary experiences, I mean, you would think that having a major role in a major television programme would be enough. But actually at that time, I also was a wife and a mother. I had a 1-year-old little boy and a 3-year-old daughter called Polly, who was my character's name, so that was synchronicity. I also had just lost my brother in very strange circumstances. So 6 months later, no time to grieve, these massive questions coming up then, because I was just a 25-year-old woman, and my dreams had been about getting married and having children and, maybe a nice job, and that would be nice. I hadn't got round to questioning, is there a God or not, or what, you see. And so then if you have somebody very close to you who just dies like that, and also in very sort of strange circumstances, now questions well, where is he gone? Well, is he in heaven? And is there a heaven?
Yes.
Then, there wasn't time. I had children, I had a job to do. So, I just had to keep moving right along.
Yeah.